We're back! Huzzah! Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to ADRAMADA. You know, if you've missed it, if you're new here, hey, welcome to ADRAMADA. What is that? ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything, Digital Alchemy, and I am the aforementioned Dave Rush. And we've been off the air for a couple of weeks, one because of 4th of July, which fell on a Thursday. That's the day we do our shows. And then there was last week. And we had no power here and no internet. So I did about a 2-minute, really horribly garbled hi-bye kind of thing just to let you know I was alive and cooking. Iced tea season is back. So pleased. But we are back. Power has been restored. Internet has been restored. I have, you know what? I don't care about that stuff. I have air conditioning. I had a generator and I had a room air conditioner. And for a few days of this little shindig, my wife stuck around with me. And every time we have a hurricane with power out, she finds a reason to escape and head on up to the upper Midwest and stay with family and friends and things like that. So, but before we left, we got a little room-size air conditioner, indoor one that vents to the outside. And I'll tell you what, after 3 days of, I can't describe it to you without you feeling uncomfortable and me feeling uncomfortable. But basically, you get into a dry bed and it's in seconds you're in a wading pool. It's just sweat pouring down all night, and it's just roasting. All you can do is hope for exhaustion to fall asleep. And then we got that AC thing and brought the room temperature down to in the mid 80s, maybe upper 80s, but that's so much better than 94. So, wow. All right, enough of that nonsense for now. We are here. We are back. We have a little bit of a show. I'm still kind of dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane that came through, so I didn't have time to prep a really good show. But we will get there. So let's see here. If you're new to this little soiree, we're here because we like tech. We just want to talk tech and demonstrate it, and we go all over the boards from computers to space to energy to whatever you got. We're big fans of Raspberry Pi and Linux here. We're not afraid to delve into social topics, including religion, sex, and, wow, politics of late, huh? Goodness gracious, what a last, let's call it 10 days or so. And the drama does not appear to have an end in sight. Ooh, wow. Well, if you're not watching this live, you may not know that we recorded this live on Thursday, July 18th of 2024. And July 18th is noteworthy because the following events occurred on July 18th. In 1938, Douglas Corrigan, his nickname Wrongway, jumps in an airplane ostensibly announcing that he is going to fly from New York to California, but instead he headed east and 28 hours later landed in Ireland. Very famous flight. On this date in 1953, Elvis Aaron, is that his middle name? Some of you guys are Elvis fans. I think that's right. Elvis Presley, either way, paid $3.98 to make his first demo record at Sun Studio in Memphis, at Memphis Records. He recorded 2 sides of a record, My Happiness and That's When Your Heartache Begins. He gave the record to his mother as a belated birthday present. On this date in 1968, 56 years ago today, Intel Corporation was founded in Santa Clara, California. I assume that was Andy Grove founding that, but I didn't actually dive that further into it. 1976, getting a little closer to some people's age here. Nadia Comaneci. It's not an Italian name, it's a Russian name or thereabouts. At the age of 14, became the first gymnast in Olympic Games history to score a perfect 10. Oh yeah, 7 times up in Montreal. And last but not least, we note with great sadness that on this very day, today, July 18th of, what year is this? 2024. We mark the passing of Bob Newhart. He has become one with the universe and has always been one, if not the leader of the one comedy genre. So, Eep Up Ork so glad you're here. Let me get the administrative junk out of the way, and then we'll see who's here and start checking in. ADRAMADA has a Discord server, and if you are not on it, you are missing some really great tech conversations, questions, answers, posts, trivia, fun, all kinds of topics. And last month, we hosted our first ever watch party. We watched Godzilla -1. 1 plus minus, whatever the official title of it was. And it was a hit. We've got another movie picked out to watch, and we need to get together, guys, and come up with that date, because I think we're coming up on a month, and it's time, if we're going to do this monthly, to do that monthly. So there's an invitation link to the ADRAMADA server in the feed. Also on that server, it's not an ADRAMADA server, it's an ADRAMADA Discord server, and it's a great way to contact with me, make contact with me. So yeah, I go off for 3 weeks, and 3 weeks is correct, by the way. 2 missing shows over 2 weeks, but it's been 3 weeks since we've been together. Goodness gracious, I'm sounding like the president. Sorry. Told you, not afraid to get into politics. Anyways, you can contact me on the Discord server anytime. As long as it's up, I'm up, or vice versa. And if you'd rather contact me in a more private way, I just posted a couple of the common email ways to get in touch with me. If you'd like to do it on social media, you can catch me on LinkedIn, you can catch me on Mastodon, you can catch me on X, formerly known as, you know what, I don't do that. I don't have my LinkedIn stuff here. It's in the description. Or just look up Dave Rush. You'll find me. All right, well, let's see who's here and what you guys are up to, what you've been up to. Goodness, look at all that. Shia kicks in 2 hours early. Nice to see you, Shia Moonstone. Tulowit, you will make an appearance twice today in tech news and stuff. Good to see you. Who also shows up an hour early. Shia checks back in. Kicked in the ribs by him. Patricia Grace, 15 minutes early. Hello, Patricia Grace. Yeah. Sorry about no pot of gold. One of the things I hate about cell phone cameras is there are 2 things that they just don't do justice to. One of them is absolutely trying to photograph rainbow. Is rainbow plural? Rainbows? Rainby? Let's go with rainby. And the other thing it's terrible with, you can look out the front door, you can be driving down the road and hit the thickest fog bank. You may as well be in a dense cloud, and you can't see 22 feet in front of you. I got to share this with my friends. And so you're stopped, you take a picture, and because of the infrared capabilities of it, yeah, I got a quarter-mile visibility in here. Why don't I just... You can't photograph foggy conditions very well, at least not the way the human eye sees them. Oh, how I miss doing hiccups when I talk. Reading messages, me, yes, we're live. What's up, Bing? Been setting up Nextcloud on my server. I've run a Nextcloud for many years. Love my Nextcloud. $3.98. You know what? That must have been, what, like 1952 then abouts? Not a sum like it would be today. How's that? Probably have to mow lawns all week to earn $4. Ooh, Ubiquity router. What do we got here? Yes, that is what I said. I spent the last few days, says Tolowit, integrating the software part of my church's new Ubiquity cameras. Okay, tiring but fun. That does sound like fun. Ubiquity routers are wonderful. Ubiquity environment is totally cool, easy to set up. Cloud manageable, of course. That's all wonderful. Thank you, Patricia Grace. I am so happy to be back. Oh, man. You can't adjust settings on a phone like you can on a DSLR, right? All right, well, let's see what's cooking on here then. Where have we been and where are we going? Of course, for the last 2 weeks, no shows. The last time we had a show was 3 weeks ago, where we talked about TermShark, the sort of graphical semi-command line menu-oriented alternative to Wireshark. And our focus wasn't so much TermShark. It's cool and easy to install and easy to play with. But we were more interested in that show in showing that a textual user interface may exist where graphical user interfaces in desktop environments aren't installed or available. So it's a pretty cool thing. What about today? Well, again, I spent much of the week dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. So I didn't put together a real cool show. But we're going to catch up on some tech news. Going to look into some, I guess what we call the main project of today. It's just some tech trivia that I've been gathering recently and over the years, and some of it's kind of fun. So just going to list off a whole bunch of neat little chunks of trivia. And just before that, I got a little 2-minute demo of a really cool Bash environment script for Linuxers. So I think you're going to like this one. And I know that you're going to like this one. It's handy as all get out. Okay, not doing that. Hey, all right, so let me do a little sharing with you. There's nothing worse than somebody showing you vacation pictures and their personal experience pictures, right? Tough. A few pictures of Hurricane Beryl should be fun. All of my neighborhood. And so it looks something like this. This is not my street. This is 2 streets over. It fell across the road, that particular tree. We had 10 trees fall across the road, and there was about 30 or 40 trees down through the neighborhood of all different sizes. Of course, now if you look at the background, just to the right of my thumb, you can see a tree in the backyard of this poor home that had a tree fall down in the front yard. Yes, I felt bad for them, but better them than us. We didn't suffer any property damage, but we were out of power for 6 days, almost 7, and it was something. So it's weird. You know, we go through a hurricane here every 5 to 7 years, and you gotta think that every time we get all these trees down, that's it. There couldn't be anything weak enough to fall down again, and yet every single time. And I look at this and I'm thinking, you know, where's the root ball on this? That thing wasn't in the ground more than, 2.5 feet? Didn't hit the car. We had one where a tree fell on both cars and literally flattened the garage. This doesn't look as bad as it actually is. That thing is leaning and crushed his roof. Friends of ours, so it looks like in the front. Our neighborhood tennis court. I was at the board meeting the other day and listened to the numbers that they are quoting to just cut up that tree and get rid of it. It's a pricey proposition. Here's my place. They do this trick when you run a generator overnight. They figure you fall asleep and they want to steal the generator. So what they do is really cool. They will come in and break into your home and find your lawnmower if you have one. Start your lawnmower while the generator is running. Then they shut off the generator. Everything seems okay. You hear the noise and it's night, so your lights are off. And then they just run off with your generator. So what you're seeing here in silver is the chain that I have secured it to the house and the foundation. This yellow cord is going to a neighbor who did not have a generator at the time. Later on, she got one and we got her up and running on that. And then this black cord, that goes to my little redneck engineered transfer switch. So I got a half a dozen circuits in the house. And then the other, I didn't show it on here because I didn't have it yet, but there was one more wire coming out of the generator that I used to run that indoor air conditioner. There wasn't enough power going through the redneck circuits. Yes, I can say redneck. I live in Texas. All right, summaries of Beryl. We'll pick it up with tech news of the last couple of weeks, mostly of the week, but let's see what you guys have to say. Yeah, there was some good damage. Yes, all safe and healthy now, and we were online pretty quickly, so we were able to help out friends and neighbors for a good chunk of it. We had plenty of time to prepare. We knew it was coming far out, and we got all the supplies and everything like this. End me. Why is it rated M? End me, are you watching this? Or are you just... Or is that on... Yeah, I don't know. Somebody check in with End me and tell them to join us over here. All right, well, let's do some stuff. Let's catch up on news, which has been woefully ignored for the last couple of weeks. Oops, can't do it that way. Gotta do it that. Okay, that's doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, there we go. The Europa Clipper is a satellite that's due to go up in October of this year. And it's going to head to Europa. It was named after the moon of Jupiter. And do something like 500 photographic orbits and measuring some other things. Well, for whatever reason, somebody got the idea that the transistors that are embedded in the satellite in a sealed vault to hold circuitry and to protect it from temperature and UV and magnetosphere around there, they've decided that those transistors, they're MOSFETs. MOSFETs are really cool transistors because they can handle a tremendous amount of power. But somebody has suddenly decided that those MOSFETs may be at risk when they're in orbit around Europa. Europa's got some amazing problems. One, it throws off a lot of radiation. Two, its magnetosphere is about 20,000 times more powerful than that of the Earth. And so they've got to find a way to protect these things. All kinds of things can happen. One of the things that they're worried about is that the solder is going to loosen because of heat. This has happened on motherboards here on terra firma. And so they don't want to unseal the vault for whatever their rationale is and get in there and harden it internally. So they're trying to come up with some ways of solving the problem. And the big solve right now is to handle it just like some of the old GPUs whose chips have become loose because the solder's gotten warm and made loose connections. You bake them. And they're thinking about baking the entire vault. So basically to kind of reseat the solder and tighten things up in there. So I said 500 flybys, 50 flybys. So it's just an interesting thing to watch. So keep your eyes peeled on that. Let's move out of space and into Linux. Last week, the Linux kernel 6.10 was released, a final release. Lots of goodies in it. I read a lot on it this week, and opinions are mixed, and they don't seem to be based in anything other than opinion. My opinion is that it will not get a lot of adoption. It's got great features, it's got some really cool stuff, but it's only going to exist for a couple of months, because 6.11 is due out in final release in just a few months. So converting so quickly to a whole new kernel and then doing it again just a few months later seems kind of sketchy. Unless there's something that you really need out of 6.10 that I got to have right now, I've been waiting for this for 2 years, and this is going to solve all of our problems. If you're not in that condition, you're probably not a developer or a distro maker who's going to switch their kernel to 6.10. I think they're going to wait for 6.11, which will be out for almost a year before 6.12 is due. What does it bring to the party? What are some of those goodies? Enhanced graphics support for ARM APUs, Intel, and AMDs, as well as their native GPUs. Intel's got native GPU. They've got the Iris. AMD's got native GPUs, of course, in their Radeon line. It's got support for new Intel CPU models, support for new hardware, like some controllers, some laptop models. Here's a biggie. Rust, the programming language, has been insinuating itself more and more and more into the Linux world. We were Java and we were C++, and Rust is really coming on strong. Oh, Python, yeah. But Python is interpreted, not compiled. Rust is compiled. Rust is compiled or not. But either way, Rust is the fad right now, and it may be more than fad, and so they built in a lot more native support for Rust in the new kernel. New performance improvements, improvements in file and disk encryption. Okay, you get the idea. VirtualBox has a new... Oh, really? I didn't do a VirtualBox slide? Okay. No VirtualBox slide. But I want to talk about VirtualBox. A new version came out, 7.0.20. Fine. Speaks for itself. Every time a new version comes out, it's either there to fix something or to add support for something new. Cool. But I mention this because of two things that sort of struck me when it came out. One, it came out with the specific major goals of including support for the latest versions of OpenSUSE 15.6, which I think is Leap. They call it Leap. And Red Hat Linux 9.5. Okay. Here's why that's interesting. I never appreciated until I read about this update how much work they have to do constantly, because there's always a new distro coming out every week, every month, every week. Let's stick with weekly. And people want to run it in VirtualBox and in VMware and in Hyper-V and all the other higher end things. It's a constant effort to look out onto the horizon and hopefully to work with vendors and say, we got to have a version of this ready to go when the next version of OpenSUSE comes out. And then I expanded my mind just a little bit further and said, virtual machine vendors aren't the only ones who experience this. There are hundreds, perhaps thousands of products that have to be updated to deal with all of this incredible influx of changed distros and new kernels and things like that. So that was one of the reasons that I put this up here, just to kind of point that out. It's a huge, huge undertaking to do a project like VirtualBox. The other thing is, because of this major point of the new release was to support OpenSUSE, that leads me to our next story, OpenSUSE. Hey, I do have a slide for that. There is OpenSUSE, and there is SUSE, which is not OpenSUSE. They have a close working relationship. SUSE provides a great deal of support to OpenSUSE. Both of them are Arch-based distros. They are enterprise Linuxes in the same vein as Red Hat. Call them bug for bug alternatives. And both of them are making huge inroads on Red Hat's customer base, in large part because of the nonsense that Red Hat pulled last year. Well, SUSE provides a great deal of support to the OpenSUSE organization, financial support, technical support, resource support. And there are lots of other organizations who contribute support in one form or another to OpenSUSE. Well, at a board meeting last week or the week before at SUSE, the board resolved to request that OpenSUSE rebrand. No longer do they want their name and trademarks and links to be so apparent. And I'm sure that OpenSUSE is looking at this request saying, we don't have a choice. If we were to disagree, and they may have some legal grounds where they could say, no, we like this, we own the trademarks. SUSE could very well say, well, okay, we understand your take on that. Watch all those resources that come from us, millions of dollars, many millions of dollars, presumably, from what I've seen in other similar relationships in the past. That all dissolves, and OpenSUSE becomes a much narrower product. So they're going to have to rename. They're going to have to lose the green chameleon. So that's my little slide here today. A lot of organizations are watching this. A lot of distro vendors who have a similar parent-child relationship, or stepchild, I suppose, is probably the better thing. And then there's a lot of other distros that use a different model. My friends over at Rocky, when they started Rocky, they left CentOS, and CentOS got killed, and they had a very symbiotic relationship with Red Hat. And when they left them, they said, we're going to start a whole new Super CentOS that is not going to be beholden to the nice folks at Red Hat. So if Red Hat ever tries to pull the rug out on us, and they did, we were able to get past that. They were able to get past it and continue to function without support from Red Hat. So they're a little less worried about it, but there are other kind of symbiotic relationship, parent-stepchild type devs that are watching this all very closely and are examining very closely why SUSE did that. Because, they're going to be looking at their step-parents saying, are you going to be doing that for those same reasons? Or maybe the other way around. Hey, SUSE did this, maybe we should do this to our step-kid. Let's go back and do some space news. It has been theorized for 50 years that because of the way the moon developed, there was a great deal of volcanic activity on the surface as well as beneath the surface. And that much of that activity could have, should have, would have left caves and empty lava tubes. Well, that theory has, for the first time, been proven by a radar mapping satellite that is constantly doing its thing and sending data down to Earth for analysis. An Italian team did some analysis, a Lorenzo Bruzzone of the University of Trento in Italy. They said they found, for the first time, an actual lava tube that is quite large, and they think they'll go much, much larger than this. And many of them are surface accessible through what they're calling skylights. And we're seeing a picture, a regular picture of a skylight here. And here are what they believe are some other skylights. And the radar map of that first one shows a great deal of underground lava tube structure. This thing that you see in the middle of the skylight is kind of like a hump, and on either side of the hump, there are tubes stretching out about 150 meters end to end. And this is the way that lunar habitation is going to begin. There's not going to be these communities of surface mounted pods that may or may not be interconnected. The moon's got some problems that those don't overcome. Huge range of temperature running from minus 130 to plus 250 Fahrenheit. We don't have materials that can deal with that. The constant bombardment of UV, there's no magnetosphere. Meteors hit the moon on a regular basis. There's no atmosphere for them to burn up. So being underground solves a lot of those problems. We have consistent temperatures underground. We get protection from UV and some protection, except for direct hits or very near hits, from meteor strikes. Minus 208 Fahrenheit, my notes say, not minus 130. They're expecting to find caves and tubes on the order of 500 meters wide. They have to hold large communities and small cities. Blech. Yeah, this is the drawing. NASA has been working for some years on a rover scheduled to go to the moon. It's called Viper. Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration Rover. Polar is our cue here because they want this thing to run around on the dark side or near the dark side and do all kinds of investigation, including the search for volatile chemicals, gases, whatever, things that might be usable in a colonized situation. They have spent to date $450 or so million on it. It was slated to launch in 2025 aboard an Astrobotic Griffin lander, part of a NASA commercial lunar payload. It looks like they're going to scrap the project. Yeah, spent $450. They think they would have to spend another $85 million, and they don't think the return is worth it. So they're either going to dismantle it and use the instruments in there in other devices, or they'll sell or give the whole thing away to somebody else who's willing to put the additional funds in it and get it up there. So it's an interesting thing. Tolowit, first story for you. Good news, nerds! Playing Dungeons and Dragons is probably good for you, particularly your mental health. Newly published observational study by the University of College Cork. That would be County Cork in Ireland, where they drink a lot of Guinness and probably play a lot of D&D. And somebody said, lads, let's put out a report that describes how good D&D is for you. It's a little more Scottish than Irish, huh? Okay. People who play the well-known role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons, often shortened to D&D, experience several processes that support their mental health. You can look it up. I'm not going to read it all to you. Good for your mind. Role-playing games sometimes used as therapeutic tools, and now they think this could be prophylactic in nature. Back to space. That's not space. This is a map. This is a micro aerial vehicle. This is presently the smallest, lightest UAV that can fly continuously as long as there's sunlight. Little tiny bit. The thing weighs less than a nickel, 4.2 grams. And you launch this thing in the morning, and it will stay up all day until the sun goes down or until the clouds come out. So a lot of development, they want to make things much, 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 much smaller, but one of the ways of doing that is not dragging the weight of batteries or other exhaustible fuel supplies. So this thing's coming out of China. It's a claim. We haven't seen any video or numbers. Let's see. I'll get right there. 421, it's 20 centimeters wide, which is about 5 inches wide. And cool. All right, one last piece of tech news, and then we'll see what you guys are talking about. Also, this is a Tulowitz story. The Japanese have been using this flavor of wind turbine for 15 years. What you've got here is 2 sets of rotators that rotate in a counter-rotational fashion. The upper rotates one direction, the lower rotates in the other direction, and they will operate in wind speeds as low as 7 miles per hour. And because of their design without blades and things like that, they're supposed to be good for wind speeds of up to plus 130 miles an hour. They'll operate in a hurricane. Well, for the first time, we're going to operate some in the U.S. And where do we have nice light breezes and good weather? Hawaii. These are called VCCTs, vertical counter-rotating. It's under my thing here. Something blades, but yeah, turbines. You get the idea. So, coming up, it's going to be pretty cool stuff. Hawaii Community Development Authority has joined forces with Kanoa Winds, a clean energy company, to bring this stuff. And they want to assess the vertical wind turbines technology's suitability for the Hawaiian Islands. Lots of benefits. They're pretty. They're quiet. They operate efficiently on low wind speed, 7 to 134 miles an hour. Okay. So that's catching up on news. I've got a little bit of a demo for you, and then we'll do trivia till the end of the shows here. I got a lot more trivia than I have time for shows. So let's see what you guys are talking about whilst we did that. Godzilla -1, thank you. We were right. Gesture sends bone. Yep. At least you're safe. Hobbit holes on the moon. Yeah, if anybody else here doesn't know, or if you're watching not live and you don't know Tulowitz in person, been weekly Dungeons and Dragoning since he was, I don't know, a year and a half old, something like that. So, well over a century he's been playing, something like that. You switched to CNC now. Who let the dogs out? Come on, for the win. Made by a couple of brothers and their friend. One brother's a vet, Gary Gygax, or Jijax. Hey, I watched a movie yesterday. It was called Samurai Marathon on Pluto. I thought it was a marathon, a binge of a bunch of shows called Samurai. It wasn't. It was one movie called Samurai Marathon. I like Japanese movies, and I prefer subtitled ones. I started studying Japanese many years ago. I never got very well into it, but I watched Japanese movies in Japanese just to help remember, pick up some new words and syntax, and double check myself with that. And it was all. So I just sat there and enjoyed it. It was a pretty good movie to boot. Help them work with their company until his death. Okay. CNC is Castles and Crusades. Okay, we will check out trolllord.com. Enemy is here. Enemy, what were you saying on Discord? I saw a question roll by, but it disappeared really fast. That mini UAV is intriguing. It really is. Come on. How much are you going to charge me? Take my money. I want to put one up and tether it so it stays in the backyard. and just let that thing fly all day. I ordered a little camera that's this big. I don't know what it's going to take to power it if I can pull off that thing, but I want to do a down view of my house for 12 hours, and that is the platform. The Boeing rated M game. Yeah, so I'm thinking Intel has this huge presence up in Washington State. Of course, Boeing used to have their headquarters, and Intel's got some crashing laptop CPUs in the last couple weeks. A lot of them. They really screwed this one up big time. So I'm wondering if they've got some crossover engineers doing some Boeing work or vice versa. I haven't had time to make a graphic about that. It would be pretty cool here. Was Florida based. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let me show you a projecto ever so quickly. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Do I want to do that? Some of you know because of posts I made on Discord that my phone, which I've had for about 3 years, committed suicide this week, or kind of suicide. I'm a good guy. I keep a good thick protector on it, and I keep a screen protector on it. But something happened where the upper corner got crunched. And the effect is whenever you turn it on, it's like somebody is drumming on the upper third of the screen. It just opens. So if there's an icon there, it hits it. And whatever opens, it hits. And weird things happen to my phone. And I suffered with that for 10, 12 days in search of a new affordable phone. And I picked one up 2 days ago. My old phone was a Samsung Galaxy S20, and the new one's an S23. Makes it one generation behind. And I have been terrified about doing the changeover because it's always a pain. I've had Android phones for much of my phone life. I started with an early Motorola in Saudi, came back here, got a Nokia, and then I switched to an Android 20 years ago, a Galaxy S4. And when I moved from the 4 to the 6, what a pain. And moving from the 6 to the 20, yeah, that's how long I made that 6 last. What a royal pain. So I was all prepared for the pain. So much better now. They've got this utility called SmartLink or SmartQuick or something. Where'd you go? Whatever, Smart something. And it takes care of about 80% of all of the transfer stuff. It does everything. It puts my desktop back in the order that it was. It kept my old settings. It did about 80%. There's a few things that I had to manually log into and set up, and I had to import all of my 2FA stuff. But the initial swap over to functionality was 10 minutes. It was 45 minutes to get that 80% done, and then another 3 to 4 hours to get all of the little stuff. I do envy Apple phone users for the ease at which they're able to change phones. For them, it's like Drano. You just pour it in and it works. But it was pretty cool. All right, so let me show you this thing here. Where are we at here? It's 44. This just takes about 2-3 minutes to show you. I want to share with you a trick, a shortcut technique for using, what am I looking for here? Open. The CD command. Actually, that's it. The CD command in bash. So let me share with you my putty link. Okay. CD CD command. If you just hit CD, it looks like nothing happens, but it's not actually true. That's actually a special shortcut. So if I go to some folder right now, CD Etsy, you can see I'm in the Etsy folder right now because it shows me. And if I wasn't sure what it was showing me, I can always do PWD, print working directory or present working directory. You're in root Etsy. If you type the CD command with no switches or parameters in the bash shell, so that's not universal for other shells, it automatically takes you back to your personal home directory, which shows up like a false root. So to know that, I'll do my PWD again, and it says, hey, you're in whack home, whack drush-dx. So that's a common shortcut trick that everybody knows and everybody uses. If you want to maneuver around, you can use the CD command to go into folders using a relative reference system. If I want to go down, I don't have to say /home/drush-tx/downloads. Since I'm right above downloads, I can just say CD downloads. If I want to go up one level, CD double dot. Can do that again. Now I'm up in whack home. Do that again. Now I'm back in the root. Now I'm back in my home folder. All right, so those are the most common CD shortcuts that everybody knows. CD with nothing takes you to your home directory. CD dot dot takes you up one. There. But I want to show you another one that's really, 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 really cool. Let's put ourselves in some distant folder, some really deep folder that's not my home directory. I'm going to go to whack var, whack log, whack journal, whack B05, blah, 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 blah. There I am. I can confirm that with my friend PWD. Now and let's see, we're going to do something in there. So I looked through the files and I found a file that I wanted to do something with, and I did something with it, and now I want to go back home. Maybe that works. I could use CD, hit the enter key, but maybe, in fact, let's go back home right now, using the shortcut, and I'm going to run some other commands here. I'm going to ls, I'm going to, let's see, there's nothing good to cat here. I'm not going to go anyplace. How about ls snap? What's in the snap folder? Okay, snap Firefox. Okay, and now I just realized, looking at this snap Firefox current folder, oh shoot, there was something that I forgot to do when I was way deep in that old place. CD remembers the last two places that you've been, where you are now and where you were the last time you had moved. And you can use the following shortcut to get back to the folder that you were last in when you CD. It's CD space dash. So now I didn't have to type in all that whack var, whack log, whack journal, whack blah, blah, blah. It does two things for me, in fact. It CDs me there, and it does a PWD right above it. Okay, you're here in var log journal B05. Now I can do what I needed to finish fixing. I'll edit some file, and now I want to go back home. I could go back home using CD, or I can CD dash again. That's the last time I was when I CD'd someplace. I can go back and forth. How about this time, instead of going home, I go to the Etsy folder. Lots of good stuff in there. Oops, forgot something. Got to go back to that folder I was just in. CD dash. So cool, huh? It's a shortcut I learned only recently. It's one of those things I probably should have known for decades. Didn't. So when I found out, I said, I've just got to share this with everybody. And so I did. every Friday, I post a trivia contest on various social media platforms, X and LinkedIn, Discord, other places that I'm playing around. Trivia questions come from my head. They come from something I read that day. They come from the show. I got a whole bunch of trivia factoids here, and there's a pretty good chance that tomorrow's trivia question post will come from one of the things that I'm about to regale you with. And before I start that, let's see what you got going on over here. Yeah, I need a case and I need a screen protector for this. It's a little smaller than my old one. I'm actually a real big fan of phablets, but I can deal. It's a pretty phone. New ones always are, right? No, I don't think Intel is circling the toilet end of me, but they got problems right now that really need to be resolved. Like it with the advent of ARM, right? ARM is definitely in a growth mode. They took a bite out of my digitizer. Yeah, can I even show it? Let me see if this is visible. Yeah, you can see it up here, this grayish area. Right, CD itself takes you just to your home directory. And that's only true in the not only true in the bash shell, but it's not universal for all the shells out there. Corn shell, I think, is different. A couple other common shells. Z shell, I think that still works. Unicorn beetle subcase. Okay, I'll look into that. Make sure they have a case before I make sure they have the right case for it before I buy the phone. Okay. Day one, case and screen protector plug. I'll be on the weekend. You refer to the backslash as a whack? No, I do not refer to backslash as whack. I refer to front slash or forward slash as a whack. Oh, yeah, me too. Now that I've learned about it, I am all over that like a shark on a pot of fish. Yeah, isn't that cool? Too cool. Maybe I can help keep up arrow from fading. I posted it. Okay, I'm a new Twitter user. I find lots of cool things on Twitter that I steal and share. And that faded up arrow was one of them. All right, love the history command. I did a course in here on it. All right, what do we have? We've got about 7 minutes. Let's get through some trivia. I'll try and get selective about this. Hey, do you know the difference between a PIN and a password? I'll give somebody a moment before I give the answer to that, because I think that's kind of a cool piece of trivia. And while you're doing that, I will repeat the little thing that I did an opening with. Nintendo, founded in 1889 as a company that made playing cards. They made their first video game in 1978. So 90 years or so, 89 years before they made a video game. PIN is all numbers. Passwords is alphanumeric or just alpha. It could be just words. Yeah, you're exactly right. So, right, personal identification number. So, numbers. You're exactly right, Elwood. Numbers only on a PIN. Well done. Before the first iPhone came out that looked like this, Apple patented a circular phone about yay thick with a bite out of it. It was an apple. It had a hinge in half, and it opened up. So, there was a keyboard down here and a microphone and a speaker up here. No screen, or there may have been a screen. I didn't see much of the insides, but it was going to look like a cylindrical apple and fold back up into a round circle. And this is cool. every iPhone advertisement or every commercial that they do that features an iPhone in it has the time on it, and the time is always the same, 9:41. Watch Apple commercials and you'll see that, because Steve Jobs announced the very first iPhone at 9:41 in 2007. I think that's probably dated. Google was created by accident. Google, the name. They were going to use Google, Googol, like Googleplex, because a Googleplex is a 1 with 100 zeros after it. But when one of their researchers was checking domain availability, he typed in Google the way we know it today and found that to be available. And the company members at the time said, oh, we like that better than Google. And so the company name suddenly became Google instead of Google. That was 1997. Sticking with the theme of Google, every now and again, Google rents about 200 goats and lets them roam the campus for a week or so to mow the grass. It's a green solution. YouTube registered in February 14th, 2005. February 14th. Why? Because it was going to be a video dating app. And so few videos went up along that vein. A little while later, they said, all right, we'll open it up to anything. 404 error happens because the web was developed in room 404 at CERN. The first webcam set up at Cambridge in 1993 to monitor a coffee pot. Allowed researchers to check if coffee was available in the break room without going on the trip. First photograph by Daguerre, who developed the daguerreotype. 1826, took 8 hours to expose. Hence, no portraits. They couldn't get anybody to hold still and smile for 8 hours. Louis Daguerre was able to lower that time to 15 minutes by 1839. So what was it, 1826, 13 years later. In 2010, the U.S. Air Force built a supercomputer for the DoD. They used 1,760 PlayStation 3s to do it. Cost efficiency. They also claim greenness, but okay. 1952, Norman Joseph Woodland invented the barcode. It was not until 22 years later, when he was working for IBM, that the barcode was further developed to be used in product labeling and became what we now call UPC, Universal Product Codes. Okay, just room for one or two others. Yes, you are older than Google. All right, do about 3 or 4 more, and then we'll wind things up here. Oh, this is a great one. This is one of those ones you take with a grain of salt, but I hope it's true. Surgeons that grew up playing video games for more than 3 hours per week make 37% fewer errors than surgeons who were not gamers growing up. Further, they are typically, on average, 42% faster at completing their surgeries, specifically laparoscopic surgeries, as well as suturing. And last one, we'll have a little bit of fun with this one. iTunes is dead to you Apple users, but it is still available to us PC and Windows and Android users. When you agree to the terms and conditions, read them sometimes. You can go look them up online right now. They're still there. You agree not to use it to create nuclear weapons. The clause says you also agree that you will not use these products for the development, design, manufacture, or production of nuclear, missile, chemical, or biological weapons. And last one, because I like this one, since I was talking about speaking Japanese, the original URL for Yahoo was akebono.stanford.edu. Akebono, I just happen to know, means the dove. And Akebono was the name taken by the only hugely successful American, he was Hawaiian, sumo wrestler in Japan. And I read a story about him one time on an airplane. I remember it said, "The dawn broke like thunder." And I thought that was one of the greatest literary sentences I have ever read. Because I had no perspective. I had no idea why the dawn. And then later on they explained his name in Japanese is Akebono, which means the dove. So Akebono broke like thunder, and that makes sense in a sumo attack. Here, I got to do this one too. Amazon didn't begin as Amazon. It began as cadabra.com, which was only an online bookstore. I remember that. Jeff Bezos explored some other options in the 90s, including relentless.com. Relentless.com is still registered, and it redirects to amazon.com. Cadabra redirects to site unreachable. All right, well, that's all I want to do for that. I got about 50 more of these. Maybe not that many, but it's enough. All right, let us line things up as we are wont to do. Oops, can't do that. Don't do that. Do this. Okay, now we can, yeah, maybe. Really? You're not going to do it? Okay, now we can do it. Hey, well, guys, thanks for coming back. We are back to normal. I've got some really good stuff coming up in the next 3 weeks. We are getting back on track to do the grand Mastodon server installation. So I'm going to take it in 3 pieces. We're going to do an Nginx installation of a server that can host multiple websites. Then we're going to use Nginx to create a proxy server so we can use port forwarding with a single set of ports, a single 80 and a single 443, and the proxy server will direct requests to the appropriate web server, even though they're running on the same computer and the same port. It's going to be really cool. Then once we've got that all up and operational, then we can do the Mastodon install. Lots of stories around that. I did some work on that before the hurricane and a little bit in the last week or so, and discovered that I have to blow away the drama, or the, what do we call the thing? PyRsquare.zapto.org server, for a lot of reasons that I will explain later. Hey, well, let's wind this puppy up then. I wish you all a great rest of the week. Please take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy, and if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And of course, never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. With that, I bid you good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday and on the other platforms I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eat up, pork, ah.